So we're influenced day by day by our minds, by our emotions, by what's going on from other people, watching other people, or other people are influencing us to try and do things that maybe we want to do, maybe we don't, maybe it's good for us, maybe isn't. We're influenced by our peers, we are influenced by what we see on TV, we're influenced by adverts, even though we want to think that we don't receive those subliminal messages and that we are in control of ourselves. But Ouspensky writes in Search of the Miraculous, page 310, the life of humanity is governed by forces proceeding from two different sources. First, planetary influences which act entirely mechanically, and then influences proceeding from the inner circle of humanity, whose existence and significance the vast majority of people do not suspect any more than they suspect planetary influences. End quote. So, in this world we're being influenced by the stars, the cosmos, the energies coming from the different planets, the influences they're sending down. And we're also influenced by, hopefully, this inner circle of humanity. Ouspensky sat waiting, hoping all his life that the inner circle of humanity would come and knock on his door. But alas, it did not. Some wonder if this inner circle of humanity is who Madame Blavatsky of the Theosophy fame was in touch with, all these masters that she could contact and even went and met and worked with and was taught by, apparently followed her around in her young life and helped her stay on the right path, gave her her occult teaching and her esoteric training. Are they the inner group that's out there? And I've already done a show on these different groups, the mesoteric, the exoteric, the esoteric, and speak about it with Josh Denny in one of our shows. So we're trying to get closer to that inner group. We want to feel that inner group's, the inner circle of humanity's influences as they're coming out, so that we're doing the right work. Now, if many of you have read Gurdjieff's books or seen the film on Meetings with Remarkable Men and know that he went off in search of the Samoan Brotherhood and found them and ended up in this fantastic place where he was taught so many things and learnt the movements and learnt how to go forth with the teachings that he came and gave to the general public, well, the people that came to listen. But I find it quite interesting that in this quote it says that most people are not interested in planetary influences or inner circle influences, because most people are too fast asleep and want to just get about their lives doing what they normally generally do day by day, living for themselves but not living a life, not realising it. So with these planetary influences, as I've said before about in my astrology show, and I've done astrology shows with Kevin which can be found on the YouTube channel, we need to understand how the cosmos works so we can feel those influences coming to us. Be aware of the influences. When we can look up what's happening today, like for example, maybe Mars is in conjunction with something, so it might feel a bit more warlike today. This is October 2021 as I make this show, and I know that many astrologers were discussing about how many planets were retrograde this month, which makes quite a difference on the way we live. Planets going in retrograde. I'm not saying they have a negative impact on us, but the energies will be different, perhaps not quite as harmonious as we would like them to be, and so things are feeling tough. Things are feeling, well, for myself personally, quite difficult to deal with my own feelings and thoughts. I feel like I'm being influenced by an outside force. I'd like to blame it on the dark forces trying to get into my mind and influence me away from my heart. And we must remember that the devil comes through the mind, the divine comes through the heart. And we should be listening to our hearts, which can be difficult sometimes when our mind is trying to influence it with its negative thoughts and its paranoia and such like. So I just wanted to do another quote from In Search of the Miraculous. This is a bit longer. This is page 200. This is Ouspensky writing. It is not difficult for us to distinguish influences created in life from influences whose sources lie outside life. The beginning of the way depends precisely upon this understanding, or upon the capacity for discriminating between the two kinds of influences. If a man, in receiving these influences, begins to discriminate between them, and put on one side those which are not created by life itself, then gradually discrimination becomes easier, and after a certain time a man can no longer confuse them with the ordinary influences of life. After a certain time they form within him a kind of magnetic centre. After a certain time they form within him a kind of magnetic centre. When the magnetic centre attains a sufficient force and development, a man already understands the idea of the way, and he begins to look for the way. He may meet another man who knows the way, and who is connected directly or through other people with a centre existing outside the law of accident. Influences of the third kind can proceed only from one person to another, directly by means of oral transmission. So we want to be influenced by teachers. Many of us want to find a teacher that can show us the way, and as I've said before in other shows, I think this is a time where we have to do it by ourselves, because there aren't that many teachers out there. The schools don't seem to be revealing themselves. But then we've been shown all this through the Gurdjieff writings. We've been shown what to do through the Ouspensky writings. You know, some of you might come from the Steiner perspective or from theosophy. But the teachings are there. We just have to work on ourselves. But again, it's a personal thing of many people want to be shown when we need to act and we need to do it. And it is difficult, I know, but we can do it. That's why we're following this kind of work. I do understand how we all want that teacher to come and take us in, or that inner circle of humanity to come and find us and take us by the hand and lead them off maybe to the inner circle and take us out of life. But Gurdjieff's work was here to show us how to live in this life as harmoniously as we can. You know, maybe you will be the lucky one that the inner circle comes for. But in the meantime, try and get on and do the work. We don't want to try, we want to do. We want to do the work. And maybe be the one that influences others. Thank you for listening, and peace to one and all.